Do you want to ask a few questions for sex for me?
Papa, would you please state your name for the people?
Daryl Egger.
And where were you born?
I was born December 14th, 1948 in Marlton, Arkansas. In a house,
In a house?
not a hospital.
Not a hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
How old are you?
75.
And where did you grow up at?
Marlton, Arkansas.
How many siblings do you have?
One.
Brother or sister?
I've got, sibling. I had one brother and 3 sisters.
Speak up. He's hard here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't be
I,
afraid to yell.
I heard you. I heard you.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, when they were younger or when they were older?
Both.
Okay. When my mom and dad first got married, well, my daddy worked for a farmer and then a rancher. And my mother, she picked cotton. And my brother was born with polio. And they'd pull these big old sacks and put their cotton in it as they picked it. Well, she would put my brother on top of the sack and pull him down the rolls and the cotton fields and stuff. And my dad, he started out making 15 cents an hour, and then he got up to about 50 cents an hour, and he was breaking horses, putting fence up, digging post holes, just doing whatever a rancher does. And then later, when we lived in Scotland, and then that was before I went to school. I was real young, and then we moved to Marlton. Only way they had of going around was with a wagon and a team of mules, and they'd go once a month they lived at Cleveland, Scotland, then Cleveland, and then we'd go to Marlton. They called that the big city, which it wasn't very big, but they called it the big city, and they'd get their groceries for the month at a time. And when we lived there, about all we had to eat was squirrels, rabbits, just when they'd go hunting. And that was right before I started school. Then I started school in Marlton. And I went to school in Marlton. I was raised in Marlton. And my dad, he was a mechanic at Marlton, and then he went from being a mechanic and record driver to being a police officer in Marlton for several years. And he worked for the city police department, and then he went to the sheriff's department and worked for several years, and then he retired. I went to school, and I had a job after school, and I made 50 cents an hour, and I worked at a Chevrolet dealership, and I dusted off all the cars, and I washed them, and I detailed them. I swept the floors and everything, and I did that for several years while I was growing up. And I started out doing that at about 12 and a half years old, I started doing that. And then,
Was that why you were going to school?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I worked there after school, and I got out of school at 3:30, and they closed at 5:30. So I worked 2 hours a day, and then I'd work all day on Saturday, sweeping out the whole shop and everything.
Ooh, did you go to church on Sundays before?
Yes, we did. We went to, it was a small church, Pentecostal church. My daddy, he played guitar in the church, and my mother, and we couldn't very well take my brother because he was born with polio and couldn't walk, couldn't talk, and had to treat him like an infant baby all of his life. And he lived to be 57 years old. And
Did she say we have to ask every question on there?
Not every question. It just has to be 30 minutes, but there's some required questions.
Did she say that we couldn't make up questions in between?
I don't think so.
Okay, making sure.
Whenever you were younger, what chores did you have like around the house?
Okay. My mother and daddy, well, my mother, I was a little bitty fella. I was real young. And right before I started to school and after, I started school when I was 5 years old. It didn't matter then. But I think my mother tried to make a girl out of me. I had to wash dishes. I'd have to stand up in a chair at the sink and wash the dishes. My sisters were older, but they didn't do a thorough job. And my mother wanted everything done pretty good, so she had me to do it. And we had an old-timey wringer washer, and it was in the backyard, and that's how we washed our clothes. The way I had to wash our clothes. I washed the clothes, and that's how we took a shower in the backyard with a water hose. And we had an outdoor bathroom, and I done the sweeping. She didn't let me cook, but I done just about everything else. I helped take care of my brother, and every time she'd go somewhere, somebody had to be there with my brother. Well, it was me, because she was afraid my sisters would leave him. But anyway, I done cut the grass. We had an old push mower. It didn't have a motor on it. It was just a push mower. And I cut the grass. And I got a little bit older. I'd say about the 4th grade, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And I had to do the gardening. And we had about an acre in a garden. And we had a garden tiller, and I'd till the garden at least once a week. And I took care of that. I gathered the vegetables, and I mowed the yard. We had a power mower when I got at that age, and we had about 3.5 acres, and I did that with a push mower. And I I had to start over the time I got through with it, but when we were, every time my mother was scared to death of storms. Every time it rained, we had to sleep in a cellar that we built, and it was in the backyard. But there was enough room for a bed, and there was a bed, about a full-size bed and a smaller bed, a twin size, we kept in the cellar with all of our stuff, with our clothes, stuff enough to stay in there when it rained, and then I just well, food and stuff was pretty cheap at that time. We get a 6-pack of Coke about twice a month, and that was 25 cents for a 6-pack of soda pop. And if we got a chance to get candy bars, you would get 6 of them for a quarter. And we ate, my dad would get a whole stick of bologna and have it in the refrigerator, cut it in two so we could put it in the refrigerator, and we'd slice it off as we needed it to eat. And we'd get a whole big box of weenies, and we'd have them when we needed them. When we walked by the refrigerator, we could get them. And my dad would always buy a stalk of bananas. We had bananas and marshmallows. That was, I think, his favorite thing. I don't know. But we had plenty of that all the time. And which our rent was like $15 a month. And well, my dad never did make a whole lot of money, but he worked hard round the clock. And of course, when we cleaned, I'd have to make the beds and clean the dishes, wash the clothes, and do the outside yard work. And then we needed something from the store, I would be the one to go to the store and get whatever we needed. And I don't.
You want to ask a question, though?
Sure. You said you grew up in Morrilton, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you? Can you tell me what, like, in what ages?
In Morrilton?
Yeah.
Well, I was born in Morrilton, and I was, I don't know. I was probably a couple of years old when we moved to Cleveland. And then we lived in Scotland for about a year. And we moved back to Morrilton, and I went to school in the first grade.
Okay, so that was pretty fast. You went from one to the other pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. Then where did you go? You went to school at Marlton? Is
Yeah.
that where you went to school?
That was the only place I went to school.
Really?
Yeah,
So you just went all oh.
except whenever I quit school to go to work. Then I had to go back in 1971 and get my GED.
And that was to go to the police, right?
Yes.
Right. Which is where, that was your,
Well, no, I wasn't a police then. Afterwards, I was. In 1988, I started work at the sheriff's office in Perry County, and I worked for 5 years. And then I went to Marlton Police Department, and I worked for 13 and a half years, and I broke my neck. And 3 different times. And then I finally had to retire over there.
right.
But-
and that was because of your injuries, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
I remember. Oh, that was, anyways, back on topic.
Well, I had to retire in 2003.
Yeah, okay. Going back to when you were a kid, what games did y'all play for fun? You and your friends?
Well, you said me and my friends?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Cousins, whatever.
my cousin lived next door, and he stayed at our house, and we grew up like brothers. And I guess we would play cars or something like that. Didn't have a bicycle until later on, till I got up in about the 6th grade. I got a bicycle to ride back and forth to school. Had to walk to school, and it was about, about 3 miles, 2 miles, 3 miles, about 3 miles. And we couldn't ride the bus because we was about 25 feet out of their jurisdiction for some reason. And we had to walk to school, huh?
Really?
Yeah.
Just 25?
Yeah, they wouldn't let us go down to my other cousin's house, and which was next door, and catch the bus. They were real strict back then. That's when they first started busing. They just first started busing. And the police department only had one car and one police at the time. And the teachers were mean. And I went to, let's see, I believe I was in the 8th grade in 1964. And that's when Kennedy was assassinated.
Okay, hold on. Let's save that for a little bit later.
Okay. Okay.
In the meantime, did you do any sports or any extracurriculars?
No.
No. Did you have any at the school?
Huh?
Did you have any at the school?
No, I didn't do nothing. I didn't participate in sport because I had too much stuff to do at home. I had to help my mother with my brother all the time.
Right. Full-time responsibility. What classes did you take?
Did you guys have like electives to where like, you know how some people would choose football, so that would be like one elective aside from core classes?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
What was your favorite subject?
Huh?
Favorite subject?
Math.
You used to help me all the time with that. I remember. Who were your friends in school?
Who were my friends?
Absolutely.
Oh, let's see. Had a certain amount. One of them, his name was Larry Malik.
Is he the one that lives by the school? Who lives by the school up here? Who lives by the school up here?
Up here?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Archie.
Oh.
He was my friend
Where?
at the police department.
probably about to Never mind. What were you saying? Go ahead. Sorry.
Huh?
What were you saying?
Okay. One friend was Larry Malick, Malick, and David Ward, and Danny Joe Ridley, and Jerry Childers, which 3 of them still living, and
Thank the Lord. Okay.
and let's see. You know, that's a long ways back.
Why don't you continue on with your high school friends? Did you have any?
That was
That was your high school friends.
from grade school up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us a funny story from school?
Do what?
Do you have a funny story from school
Funny?
or any kind of school story?
Yes. My friend Danny Joe Ridley and his cousin, name was Dale Bryant, which he was my friend too. They took the flag down at the school on a flagpole, and they made them a flag out of a white piece of sheet and wrote on it Marlton Penitentiary. And they raised the flag, raised that up there, and climbed up the pole, tied it up there, and greased the flagpole.
Nobody can take it down.
Yep. And it's a picture of it in my yearbook. I should have brought it. I didn't think I would have brought it because it's in my 1964.
Did they get any trouble for it?
Not much.
Not much.
No.
That's awesome.
Now in the 7th grade is when they integrated school.
Ooh. Should we talk about that? Or should we say that?
They did.
She said important.
That was very important.
We should probably save till the next 8 minutes for that.
Probably.
Okay. We'll come back to that too.
Okay.
If you don't mind. But did you have any pets?
Yes, I had a dog. This guy in Scotland or Cleveland. It's between Scotland and Cleveland. I don't know which you would call it. He had cows and things. He had this big collie dog that was born the same time I was. And when we got him, he was 13 years old. And so was I. But he was a fantastic dog. He'd do anything you tell him to do. But he was scared of gunshots or thunder.
Mm-hmm.
If it thundered, he'd run in the house or in somebody's car, anywhere, and get under the bed. He would hide and put his paws over his eyes. And I did have another little old dog. He's a mean little rascal. But I'd get out there and put me a sleeve on my arm and let him bite me or stuff like that. But we'd all do it as in playing. And he finally got ran over, but somebody shot my collie.
Oh.
And he finally died. But that was the only one that I had. Other than after I got older.
Right. And tell us about that one.
Well, now, had 2 of them, or 3, or 4, and one of them was, I don't remember, what kind of dog was Mickey? looked like on that movie Bingo. You remember the dog? I
I
had
don't
one.
remember what, he
Wait.
had some poodle in him.
Yeah. Anyway, he got run over a couple times,
That's a couple questions.
but
It's fine if you already covered some of them too.
we had him for a long time, and he finally got ran over. Well, he got ran over 3 times. Last time was permanent. Then we had a big old husky. It was a mean, crazy.
Okay, not a good dog. I just said good dogs too.
Uh,
I said good dogs, and then you said that's the meanest old dog.
oh, yeah, well, it was. Well, he wasn't really mean. He was just dumb. He'd lay out in the middle of the highway and chase cars from both directions. He'd chase that one going that way and try to bite at their tires. And then when he'd come back, he'd run back and chase the one going the other way until I'd go out there and get him. And anyway, I put him I fenced in the yard to keep him in the yard. He'd get out. And then, I don't know if I ought to say what else I done about the electric fence. But,
Probably not. I mean,
okay, that wouldn't be good. That'd
Y'all
be,
have to speak.
well, it wasn't really
Talk off,
pet
y'all.
cruelty because he enjoyed it.
we should probably definitely skip that one then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to more questions about like around the war.
Okay.
How did the wars impact your family?
I guess my dad was in the army, and I guess the way the war impacted, well, they had the draft board,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, when you turned 18, you had to go and get a physical for the draft. One would go to the Army, the next one would go to the Marines. Army, Marines. You didn't have a choice of which one unless you enlisted. But the day you turned 18, you had to go down there and have a physical for the military. And well, the food and stuff was cheaper then. And rent was cheaper because nobody had no money.
Yeah.
And it was really a hardship because you couldn't afford to do nothing. There weren't that many jobs around, and if you could find a job, it didn't pay nothing, hardly, and you hardly ever made over $25 a week.
Would you say the economy was struggling because of the war?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I would.
And did you have a job? Like, and if it was, what was it?
When I was 18, well, I was working at that car dealership, and I washed cars, and then at 10 cents a piece, I made a commission, which was 10 cents for each car that I washed, and I washed a lot of cars. And then I would change the oil and grease the cars, and that was my job until I quit there to make more money. I went to work at a gas station, and I worked there at a DX gas station for about 3 or 4 years, And then I went to work at a cotton mill, which the minimum wage was $1.20 an hour. And I worked there for several years. And then it went up to $1.40 an hour while I was working there. Then it went up to $1.60 an hour. And I worked there for, like I say, for several years. And we got to work all the overtime we wanted there. I'd work 16 hours a day most of the time. So it averaged out to make pretty good money. That was the biggest and really the only place in Marlton to work. And they employed hundreds of people, hundreds of them, if not more.
Was that because of the war?
Well, yeah, the cotton,
Jobs.
because of the cotton, because they would get all of that cotton from them cotton fields and stuff like that, and they'd make material and stuff like that for any kind of a clothes manufacturer, and they'd make them for like uniforms. They wouldn't make the uniform; they'd make the material for them, and they would just take that raw cotton and make twine out of it, or thread, and put it on these spools, and it'd go to another department, and where they would have these big old weavers, and they'd weave material in there. And then after that, I went to work for an interstate manufacturing company, and we made plastic tubes for like air conditioner harnesses for cars and stuff like that. And I ran an extruder, and we put this ground up plastic in a big old machine and had an auger in there that would bring it out and cook it, and it'd make a little tube and run down this water thing about so big, it had water in it, and had a knife and go down through there and cut it off, and we had to keep the inside of it at a certain size and stuff like that, and certain length, and we did that. I did that for several years.
Do you know anything about like how the soldiers were treated?
No.
How did anybody like support them?
Well, that I don't know either. Had a lot of cousins and things like that uncles that went to the military also, but how they were treated, I don't have a clue.
What about, was there any protests?
No, because when they were a protest, they'd probably go to jail when anything like that happened back then.
Were you personally concerned about the war?
Not really, no. 'Cause I wouldn't. I tried to join, and I couldn't join the military because I had nerve damage in my ear, and no, I don't know nothing really about the military other than that. And I didn't personally know anything about that.
How long was your dad gone for?
It wasn't all that long because he come down with pneumonia and he stayed in the hospital for a long time, and they finally, after he went through training and boot camp and everything, and finally they gave him a medical discharge out of the military because they couldn't cure his pneumonia. Had bad lung.
How did the war affect you said your cousins and your uncles went to the war as well?
Oh, well, the Vietnam War, they all come back, all my cousins and everything, with a drug habit. I mean, it did affect that.
Yeah.
Because they went to Vietnam and they didn't know nothing about drugs. But when they come back, they were every one of them was hooked on it.
It was a bad war.
Yeah, it was a bad war. They had so much stuff, malaria and everything over there, and they said it was so bad that you would do anything just to exist while you were over there.
I think we've asked enough questions. I think our video's long enough too.
You want to just end it?
Unless you want to ask anything
I have
else.
some war stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I was born on Pearl Harbor Day, December the 7th, 1944. My dad was in World War II. He was deployed to France. And I was a year and a half old before he got to come back home. He
Does that
came.
mean he,
Huh?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Does that mean he joined toward the end of the war, or?
No, World War II was in effect when Dad went in. And he was stationed in France. And Mother was expecting me when Dad had to go overseas. And I was a year and a half old when he got to come home. But I was born December the 7th, 1944. Pearl Harbor was born December the 7th, 1941. And he didn't talk about the war a lot to family. I've overheard him talking to some friends, but it was a very, very bad war. They had a very hard time. And a lot of them came back messed up mentally and physically. And then it was just a bad time. Your papa joined the Navy in 91, and he was deployed to the Persian Gulf War. And that was pretty bad too. He was on the USS Carr, Navy ship, and they had a lot of war things going on with ships at that time. He was in the Red Sea for a long time. So that wasn't a good war either, the Persian Gulf. And your papa was on the USS Carr. He was a fireman on the ship, and he was also a diver on the ship. But each ship had to have two of each. And his ship was called a frigate, and when it would go out, 8 other ships would go too. And the frigate ship, which was his, the USS Carr, they guarded all the 8 other ships that they were surrounded by. That was in 1991. And he got out of the Navy in 1996.
Did people seem affected by it at all?
I don't think so.
No.
No. Didn't seem to be.
Is he? Did you say it had to be an hour or 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Okay, then I guess we're good. I told you I want to get
Is
back.
there anything else that either you would like to say?
No?
Don't know of anything.
Alright.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.